And now I feel that I'm getting a bit touchy. That's unbelievable. Still after so many years. Mm-hmm. Because when I listen to this, it's an emotional roller coaster. Because we are 4-1 up. And suddenly 60,000 in the stadium go quiet.
Hi and welcome to the Fussball Channel. I'm your host, Markus Fjørtoft, and as always joined by co-host Åge Fjørtoft. And we got a little special episode for you today. It's international break, but there is a high-flying Eintracht Frankfurt, and coincidentally, the co-host is a former Eintracht Frankfurt player. And we would like to basically, Dad, discuss with you your Bundesliga career because there will be Eintracht Frankfurt fans that listen to this, there will be Bundesliga fans, and they will be to a greater or lesser extent familiar with your career as such. And so I thought it would be nice to have a little chat about your time in Germany, which goes back, obviously you've lived in Austria and you were kind of aware and very much immersed in that culture, but then finding yourself in Frankfurt during the late 90s. Let's just start with, how did that come about, going to the Bundesliga? Because obviously you birthed to me and I lived my first 5 years in England. Start with how it came about coming to Eintracht Frankfurt.
Well, first of all, you played your first football game for Eintracht Frankfurt as well. When I moved there, because I moved before you guys, your sister Lisa, she was 1 and you were 4. When my wife trusted me to go there and find a place to live. I'll talk more about that later. The thing is, when I played in Vienna from 1989 to 1993. And at that time, I kind of relaunched my love for English football, and I relaunched my time for German football because I could share them, because they were very interested in English football. But of course, for them, German football was even closer to them. This is a neighbor land. That was a big brother. There was a role model. I mean, speaking the language, of course, but the German Bundesliga was very, very big in Austria. So I kind of followed them very closely, read all the magazines, the German magazine, like Sportbild, Kicker. I read Bild Zeitung to learn German. So I always followed them from there on very, very closely. Because when I was younger, of course, I followed Bayern Munich more or less, because that's the team we saw in Europe. We didn't know other teams, more or less. I remember there were a difficult team called Borussia Mönchengladbach. It was very hard for a Norwegian to say. So I was in Sheffield United. I went to Sheffield United after Middlesbrough. For the first time ever, we bought a house in England. Up to then, we rented a house. So I told my wife, Marianne, your mother, I told her that this house, we're going to stay here for the rest of my career, because we're going to stay here. This is a great house. I love to be in Sheffield, scoring a lot of goals for Sheffield. We were on our way to go up in the Premier League. But then I was suddenly more or less sold to Barnsley. And we talked about that before, because on the same Thursday, they sold both the strikers, Brian Dean and Åge Fjørtoft. I was at Barnsley, and Danny Wilson, my manager, told me, wow, they've sold Brian Dean as well, my colleague, to Benfica. And fast forward, we got relegated. I did a good season for them, half of a season. I think I scored 6 goals in 11 Premier League games, which was not bad, but we were going down. And by the start of the new year, and I have to tell you that because he is a part of the story, John Henry, the striker that I had replaced twice in my life, first in Middlesbrough and then in Barnsley, and then he was my roommate, turning to be my manager. And I knew straight away that John, and he wouldn't mind me say that, I would say that he wasn't bright enough, I say it in a funny way, to understand that it was better to let me play, because he wanted to be a playing manager. So he put me on a bench. And that time, that frustration started in my body, because I wanted to play football. At this time, I was 31. So I had maybe 3-4 years left of my contract. And I was desperate, like always. I wanted to play football. There was talking about me going back to Sheffield United. I was mad because I couldn't do that, because I still lived in Sheffield. But then Tore Pedersen, my teammate at the national team, now an agent, he started saying, Jan, he called me all the time and said, Jan, we need a we need a striker. We're desperate for a striker. I've talked to the sports director, Gernot Rohr. Come here. And I said, no, I can't move to Germany. Are you mad? I want to live in England. And then two times on the bench again. They're losing a game. I just started following Eintracht Frankfurt closely because Tore was there. And then he said, come Jan, please. And then after another frustrated kind of game where I didn't get enough match time, I felt, of course, I wanted to play all the time. I found myself on the plane to Frankfurt and negotiate my contract with Eintracht.
Yeah, and then on the plane to Frankfurt, how was it then? Manager who was there? Did they know you well? Have you got an agent? How did that work at the time?
Well, I'm one of the few players of my generation or any generation who never had an agent. I was that kind of guy who thought that why should I give an agent 10% to earn me 5% rise? I mean, it's a mathematic quite good thing, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I lost something. I don't know. What it helped me was to look after my own career, and I think that has helped me a lot after my career. So on my way to the airport, when I decided I should go down, Barnsley let me go because they didn't play me a lot, and they saw that maybe they would get a fee for a 31-year-old. I found a lawyer in Köln who could help me with all the practical stuff, and the rest was to find what level they were on, and then try to negotiate that. So I was sitting with the lawyer of that I have never met, but he was recommended. I can't now remember who recommended me, but I also always looked for people that other players in the game recommended me. So I signed for them. We had a press conference. I was sitting in the middle. Now Gernot Rohr. Now, yeah, I was sitting in the middle. Tore Pedersen somehow was at the press conference, and Gernot Rohr, the sports manager, he was also sitting there, lying like Pinocchio, because he started to say, first of all, we followed Jan for a long, long time, he said, and then I knocked the foot to Tore Pedersen, my roommate, my teammate, the Norwegian teammate, and we just looked at each other, and we still are great, great friends. I see Tore then again, and you know him, Marcus. He's a wonderful lad. And then there was a lot of press because they were desperate to get a number 9 because that missed them. This is going to be a place. This is going to be a struggle for them to be in the division. This is in Bundesliga, 1998-99. So I signed for them in November. So I do my stuff. I say that I'm here to find Tore Pedersen a girlfriend, and and we are ready for the game. And by the time you didn't move with me, so I played games on the Saturday. Because this is Frankfurt, the home games, I catch the latest flight to Manchester, and I was home like midnight Saturday, and then I stayed home to Monday evening, and then I went down and played, and so we did then for a month. The manager, and you're talking about the sports director, said he'd been watching me for a long, long time. I had my first training session in then Waldstadion, same place like now, but differently. It was built for the World Championship in 1974. So the gaffer, the trainer, the coach asked for me to come into his training, his dressing room. This is 2 days before we were going to play in Dortmund. And he asked me, what kind of player are you? Because he didn't know about me. So I said, well, I'm a number 9. I score my goals. You can play up to me. I can keep the ball. And I go, okay. And then there were other things, because culture as well. There's a different culture. We'll talk about that more later maybe. But Tore Pedersen said there was a lot of, he described to me different players. And what you have learned, Marcus, in your career, and I've learned in my career, it doesn't matter which dressing room you are. There is always a person who filled the role. There's this type of guy, the kind of guy, the guy who never speaks to you, the guy to try to bully you. And Tore Pedersen said, this particular player, he will try to bully you on the first session. He's not a good player, he said, but just be aware of that. He will try to bully you. So, and quite rightly, at the first session or second session, I was coming through, I had a shot, and this guy was a center half. So he came over to me, I had a go because I didn't play him. And I just looked at him and I said, you fucking idiot, you're a defender. There is no chance in the world that I will give you the ball in front of the goal. Mm-hmm. And then he was finished. I mean, so that is also the kind of story when you come to a new country.
Yeah, and people tend to underestimate kind of the cultural transition as well. Before we delve into the stories, I would love to let us revisit your debut at Westfalenstadion away at Borussia Dortmund. And as part of that, I guess also the cultural transition as such, coming from one country to another, you mentioned there in terms of the types of players, but also I guess the football that was being played there at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dream come true to play at Westfalenstadion, a stadium. I mean, the yellow wall and all that. And remember, this is 1998. This is the season after they won the Champions League. This is a great team, Marcus. And the first game, first of all, the warm-up, and I heard You Never Walk Alone. I remember I said to Tore Pedersen, I would start crying because this is so emotional. There were over 60,000. Now there are over 80, but there were over 60,000. So I came from being on the bench in the championship for Barnsley and then playing in the starting 11 against Dortmund. And 45 minutes, Marcus, I was brilliant. I have to say, I was brilliant. And the proof is, because after the game, the head of sport at that time, I think his name was Michael Meyer. I could be wrong, but the sport director said that Fjørtoft seemed like a great signing. Wow. And I played against Julio Cesar, a Brazilian Mandeca, great footballer. And he went always up to my back of my...
Yeah, you love that, don't you?
Yeah, so I turned him around many times. I was very close. I think it was Klaus, the goalkeeper. I chipped him. I remember I missed. We lost the game 3-1, but I think it was a great start for me because I proved myself. But the funnier thing is what you're talking about, the cultural thing, because in England, nothing to do that they are less prepared. They're just different prepared. So it was very professional. We went to the hotel. We had the meals and there was this and that and there were different rules. So I just had to learn them straight away. But the funny thing is when I went into that dark corridor of Westfalenstadion, I came into the dressing room. I think I've told this story before. I probably told all stories before. Hopefully someone haven't heard of it. I came in there and every player had a towel over their head. And that was because the coach, Horst Ehrmantraut, who was a character, by the way, he had a system that you should kind of get all your energy into yourself. So I was number 9. And of course, the German was sitting in a row. So number 10 was my very good friend, still a very good friend of mine, but I didn't know him very well. That was Thomas Sobotzik. So I kind of took the towel up and I said, what the fuck is going on here? And he said, no, this is something we do with energy. And I just took off my towel and I walked away, which I guess that didn't give me all that kind of credit. But it was a good start. It was a great start to play in Westfalenstadion. Second game, I think, if I remember right, because I always remember my goals, Schalke 04 at home, long ball in, Oliver Eck, I knew he could miss the ball then again, and he made a rebound, and I scored on a rebound. I was all on my own, thinking that he could lose the ball. So I had a quite decent start, but the team at this time wasn't good at all.
And remind me here of the order, Dad. Did you have Jörg Berger before or after Magath?
So at this time, I have Horst Ehrmantraut. So I think that the first 2 months, I had first Horst Ehrmantraut. I think I had him for 4 games. That was before Christmas. Then I had Bernhard Lippert, who was the assistant coach, who had 1 or 2 games. He didn't succeed. Then we got a guy called Reinhold Fans, who was absolutely useless.
Is this the person that you subbed yourself in for?
This is the guy I subbed myself in for. I want to tell that story as well, because he lost. He lost all the credit when we went to pre-season. Remember, they have a break, so we went to a pre-season. And what the Germans do, or they did, they went to a place where we went skiing. And the last day of the training camp, we went to a hytte, a cottage up in the mountains to celebrate, but without alcohol, we thought. So the coach started by saying no alcohol, and it ending up that everybody had to drink alcohol. Even a Muslim in our squad that was not supposed to, he was told to drink. On the way down, he got his head got so red from all alcohol, and he was a half pissed. And Tore Pedersen because he threw. We were going with this kjelke. What's that in English?
It's like one of the I forget, I freeze, but the ones that you slide down the hill.
Slide down the hill.
A
sledge, of course, a sledge. And he was knocking into Tore Pedersen, and it was so dark, so the coach couldn't see who did it. So Tore just took him like this, put him into the snow, and bang, 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 bang.
This is the coach at the time.
This is the coach. And when we came down to the bus, he just came there with snow everywhere, his red alcoholic face, and his hair everywhere down and wet with snow. And he had no clue who did it, but it was Tore Pedersen. So that was it started. He didn't like me. We did all these kind of tests. He said, we had a jumping test, and he said to me, there's no chance you can play because you're
vertical.
We just
you're
up.
Your jump.
And they measured that, and they said that he said to me, in terms of the other guy, you are 5 centimeters behind him. And I looked at him because at this time, now I'm 32. So I just looked at him and I said, how tall is the other striker? And he said, what is that to do? Okay, let's say he's 175. And by the way, I'm 191. So I still got 11 centimeters from him, and then I went away. So you can imagine how my relationship to him. But then we finally, and I remember I did this on ESPN. They thought I was just lying, but we fired him. We went together, the players, and we fired him. We found a way to get him out. And a part of that was a game we played Bochum at home. I was not playing. Everybody else was playing. The striker came off. He put another young kid on that didn't have a number. So they had to just put something on him to get on. So I was then warming up behind the goal. And I thought, I'm not having this. So this is around the 60th minute. So I just go over to the bench. It's 0-0. We don't score. It's a sad day. It's cold. We have to win against Bochum. And I just take off my clothes and I start taping my shin pads, get him all, and I make myself ready next to Reinhold Fans, who's staying like this with his Reusch Werbung PR tags on him. And then he looks, and then the crowd like, Fjørtoft, because I was the Messiah coming on now, because everybody else has failed. And the coach looked at me and he did like this. And he thought, but then of course he had to put me on. And to make this story good, I have to score the winner, don't I? And I do. Cross from left, with the outside of my foot volley, we won 1-0. I'm standing on the pitch thinking, this is going to be trouble. What do I do? And I thought, let's go with all my weapons in. So there was, at the time, doing the interviews on the pitch. So they could hear us around the whole stadium, something they tried at that time. And I said a lot of stupid things, but one of them I do remember, and so did the coach earlier the week. He said, the problem with the Åge coach is that he's in the wrong department of this club. He is in the football department, but he should have been in the athletics department. That's how less knowledge he has about our game. Of course, this kind of nearly killed him. Mm-hmm. And I've never been having a go at. I was just listening to him. And then I just walked away. And 10 days later,
what follows? Yeah, what follows then?
The following thing is that he looked at me and he said he gave me a fine on £30,000 in today, and £30,000 because there was a different thing. He made a mass kind of thing of it. He took this, you have done this, you have done that. Right. So he gave me £3,000, and I remember it well because we were standing on the training ground, and he said, listen, I'm not doing the sounds. It's our little dog Marcus, a little Bex who's doing that. and he looked at me and he said, and if you don't pay these £30,000, you're not traveling with the team to Leverkusen. That was the next game. So I did this on his back, and I said, all the best in Leverkusen. So, of course, then I had to go to the board, and I sound like a terrible man now.
You're difficult, but nonetheless, you did back it up.
I backed it up, and I was, of course, going to the board, and I had to talk to the board, and they showed me at this time video. They had a video. For those who don't know, try to Google what a video cassette is. And they showed me on the pitch. It was not a good sign when I'm doing all the kind of things to the crowd and doing all my interviews. And they said, you have to pay the fine. And I said, there is no chance in the world that I will pay the fine. And I tell you what, if you want me to pay that fine, I will get myself the best lawyer in the world. And at that time, that was the guy who got O.J. Simpson off the murder. So I said, and I'll get Johnny Cochran in to defend me. And then one board member said, who was a lawyer, and he said, well, I can help you. I'm a board member myself. No, I'm a lawyer myself. And I knew I had to have won them. I ended up paying £300 to the Kosovo Foundation, at that time. And I went to Leverkusen. We lost. We played without strikers. We played the only time in the history of Eintracht Frankfurt. We played a 5-5-0 system with a goalkeeper at the back. We lost 2-0. I came on, and I think there was another game. We played Bayern Munich. I scored a goal in that game, but we lost. And then the guy was fired. So then it's time for Jörg Berger, because then we were a hopeless coach, and hopelessly at the bottom of the table.
And what season are we talking here? Is it 97, 98 or 98, 99?
This is 98, 99. So there is 8 games.
And that's the
left.
year of the great escape, obviously.
This is the raid. Don't conclude, Marcus.
No. I'm just setting the pillars here from start to finish, and you fill us in between and preferably towards the end.
Yeah, because this can get long, but I tried to jump. But this is my time at Eintracht Frankfurt. Of course, there's 8 games to go over the season. So who are you going to call? That is Ghostbusters. You need a savior, and the fireman of German football was Jörg Berger. Jörg Berger, with a fantastic story, escaped East Germany on his own, left his family, later came back with his family, did his thing, saved clubs all over the place, and suddenly Jörg Berger came into the dressing room, and I liked him straight away. And he was a quite clever man. The other one wasn't clever at all, but this was a clever man. I remember one of the first sessions, he came to me and said, I'm struggling a bit. Who I'm going to play left back? Who do you think, Jan? And I think, fucking hell, what's going on here? Am I supposed to do the team here? Yeah. But he probably did this with 3 or 4 players. But at the time, I thought, wow, I would go to war for this man. I would be with him. Very clever man. Made it simple for us. I remember he did 3 or 4 set pieces that we practiced every day. Small things like that. Gelled the team together. And it started a bit slowly. I think we had a draw in Bielefeld. But then we were hopeless after the rest of the teams. And the last 4 games, they were Werder Bremen away, great team. Dortmund at home, great team. Schalke away, great team. Kaiserslautern, who was, and that with Otto Rehagel and Michael Baller.
And I wasn't aware when I did the research. They were reigning champions.
They were reigning champions, and it was to be, and we were hopelessly behind. And I also have to admit, I can say that we all knew that we were going to save ourselves and blah 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 blah. We did what we had to do. We had no clue what was that we were going to do. That I think that was one of the strengths in that thing, because we the old cliche, we did one game at a time, but we did one game at a time. We went to Bremen, won 2-1, I think. I remember that game because that guy going to meet me later. I met in the tunnel Andreas Herzog that I played with, their best player that I played with in Rapid Vienna. And the coach of Werder Bremen was Felix Magath. And I remember Andy Herzog, when we were going out on the pitch and we standing next to each other, hugging each other, and said, I have to get away from this. I can't be with Magath. I have to leave. I have to find a way to get out. I didn't know at the time, of course, that Magath would be my coach later. So we beat Werder Bremen. We played at home against a great Dortmund team. We won 2-0. I scored in that game, a 2-0 win. I remember coming one against Jens Lehmann, one of the best keepers around in his generation. I was thinking, because It was not very often because I was not the quickest player. 1-1 against Lehmann, and I wasn't very used to do that. But in Germany, because you are so man-marked, when you got away from your marker, I was through. And I was thinking, Jens, are you not going down? Please go down. I want to chip you. I want to get a ball over you. But he was just standing, and as you do, I was just shooting as close to him as I could. And a goal, 2-0. Going to Schalke, 60,000 people in the old Schalke stadium. I always say the same sentence in that. We were 2-0 down. They hammered us. I think I touched the ball once. The good thing for Eintracht Frankfurt, that was a goal. Because Thomas Sobotzi's shot, rebound, 2-1. We came into the dressing room. They absolutely hammered us. And I guess that was before ball possession. But I guess there was if the percentage would be 75-25 on a good day. Mm-hmm. And Jörg Berger, the old fox, you never knew, was he a genius or never had a clue? But he always had this thing about him. So he always did like this when he was thinking. And he said, listen, boys, there's one thing I'm going to tell you now. And listen carefully to this. You will win 3-2. I just get a feeling. We will win this game 3-2. Mm-hmm. And we did. We won 3-2. Schalke 3-2. Frankfurt 3. Olaf Janssen, the libero, scored his first goal of the season. 3-2, we won the game. Meaning that before the last game of the season, we play Kaiserslautern, reigning champion. They just need a point to get into the Champions League. Uwe Rössler, that I met later, that is how football is in there. Michael Ballack, great team. Sforza, great Swiss defender or libero. And Otto Rehagel, of course. There were enough with a draw. And as it always is at the end of the season, Marcus, there is all kind of theories what will happen. If this happened, they have to do this and this have to do that. And the papers or the media at that time made like 20 different things that could happen. If Hansa Rostock, if Nuremberg, not Nuremberg, and all the teams down there doing this and doing that will be okay. But the thing that happened has never happened, and it was never in the media, because what happened is just unbelievable. And that's why, Marcus, at the end of every season, I get a call from the German media to describe
without fail. And I guess that was part of your follow-up here, but why does it hold that such significance? We talk about relegation battles. That one is the one that captures everyone's imagination. Part of that was the hypotheticals that all the magazine and newspapers laid out, none of them which were here. You're obviously up against the reigning champions, 3-1 up, 10 minutes to go. You realize,
4-1. We're even 4-1 up.
Yeah, no, of course. But I didn't realize that you were only 3-1 up with 10 minutes to go. Then you got 4-1. And then how do you come about the communication before internet, before everything, and realizing we need to get one more goal, which in of itself is absurd that you're leading 4-1 against a team that needs Champions League qualification, that is reigning champions, to realize you actually need 5-1 to stay up on goal difference.
Yeah, and first, your first question, why has it been so mythical? It's also part of the radio. And I would like for those who can follow this in Germany, go in and see that, because the live radio in Germany is fantastic. Great journalists. And they kind of have this thing, Tor! Mm-hmm. And now I feel that I'm getting a bit touchy. That's unbelievable. Still after so many years. Mm-hmm. Because when I listen to this, it's an emotional roller coaster. Because we are 4-1 up. We are 4-1 up. And suddenly, Marcus, we have scored 4 goals, and all goals world class. You can't believe how good the goals were. There was Schneider, there was Sobotzi, there was Chenya. They were fantastic, the goals. And we are 4-1 up. And suddenly, 60,000 in the stadium go quiet. This is before live update on the screens. This is before this bring, and you can see somewhere. And this is even before live table. So we're 4-1 up, and everybody goes quiet. The thing is that every result in the whole world had gone against us in like 10, 15 minutes. So we were down. And you have this guy on the bench, I think it was Thomas Epp, who, by the way, never talked to me because I took his place, but that's another story. But he was sitting there with some of the friends or the other, and they were actually using their pen to do this and blah, 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 why are we down? So they were doing a live table on a sheet of paper. And suddenly they realize, if we score one more goal, we are past Nuremberg. This is Nuremberg, who had invited 50,000 people to free beer, free sausage, to celebrate that they have saved their place. So they were not on anyone's bill. And then after the game, I said, well, then I scored one, didn't I? But I think that is part 2 or 3 why this is so mystical, because Christopher Westerthaler, my Austrian friend who passed away, and I rest in peace to my friend, he came through, the ball suddenly came to me, and I instinctively did what I always done when I went one against a goalkeeper. I did my trick. In Norway, they call this Fjørtoft trick. In Germany, they call that the Übersteiger. So that's my nickname in Germany. They call me the Übersteiger. So I do this silly goal. If I missed, I could never go back to Frankfurt, because then I'd be the most arrogant player in the whole world doing that, and we could have saved our play. So I scored 5-1. It's still, this is the 89th minute, and you're in the stadium. You won't remember. I guess you can remember all the fuss. But we, and then they played. I remember Sforza kicking the ball forward. I said, what a fucking idiot you are. I mean, keep the ball here. It doesn't matter if you lose 5-2, because then I understand this goal has a significant role that will win. And then it was a very, very hot day in Frankfurt. The whistle goes. Everybody running onto the pitch. When you get older, you start getting more emotional. And I remember being on my knees. And people running over to me from the bench, hugged me, and said, why are we in? What has happened? Mm-hmm. And then they explained that Nuremberg, blah, 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 60,000 on the pitch. It was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you were there. I don't know how much you remember from that day.
I don't remember it as viscerally, obviously, as you do. It's one of those where you just have faint memories of it. For me, probably
you were 5.
5 years old. So, but it's like same extent. And then obviously part of the story is that you realize later on that is it Bochum who have the big?
No. That's a good follow up. We go home after the game. We had celebrated, and they said we're going to meet up in a restaurant to celebrate. Blah 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 blah. We called, got a babysitter for you and your sister, and we came home. First of all, the neighbors, but I didn't know where Eintracht Frankfurt fan. I didn't know there were so much. Mm-hmm. They had used scarves, flags. Whole the road from where I parked till our apartment. We lived in a big apartment. They had done that with scarves and flags. Fantastic. And then I came into the living room, and I put a run. That was a run. It was the name of the football. And I watched the Nuremberg game. So Nuremberg, mind you, if they'd scored another goal, we would have still gone down. And then Frank Baumann is shooting a fantastic shot from 25 yards. Richard Golds from Freiburg saves in from him the right corner, saves, lands. Now, probably not him. I don't know who shot it, because Frank Baumann is going on rebound, so he didn't shoot. Okay. A fantastic shot. So he's falling down, but the ball goes that direction. So the goal, Marcus, is not possible to have a bigger chance in the history of football. Mm-hmm. And Frank Baumann, being the center half he is, came forward. He was just going to push the ball over the line, and he would have saved Nuremberg, and we would have gone down. And he kind of hits the ball with his foot, and Richard Golds managed to jump the other way and save it before it ran over the line. And then I had to sit down. I was sitting down on the sofa. Then I got all my emotions. I couldn't hardly breathe. My breath was gone. And I met 20 years later, because we never met again, Frank Baumann and myself. We went to a show in Germany. He's now he's been a successful head of sport. He went to Werder Bremen, been a successful director of sport there. And we met at Sky. We had a show, and he just saw me and he said, "Who's gonna start, you or me?" And then we just hugged each other. And then it was 20 years later. But that was an amazing story.
No, it's incredible. And football is a game of moments, and in many ways, it shaped your legacy in Germany. And it's crazy to think of the moments that constitute where you are now. And again, like I said, this relegation, the Great Escape, the Übersteige, it captures people's imagination every relegation fight. And I appreciate, looking back at as such, and someone like Jörg Berger, the coach, he's no longer with us either, and reflecting on that. And
yeah, I can maybe Marcus summarize then the rest of it, because I can't tell all stories, of course, but I will just summarize the rest of it. We started a new season with a fantastic optimism. Jörg Berger, typical him, because he was a fantastic character, liked to be brown. He was always cool in his clothes. He was there. He was like this guy, and he was very confident in our pre-season. But he hurt himself in a tennis game going to in the holiday. So he started the first pre-season 3 weeks. He had to sit on a chair, which was a bit funny sitting there. But then he was eventually fired, because we found ourselves in another relegation battle, and in come then Felix Magath. And Felix Magath, also known as the great survivor, but the opposite of Jörg Berger in terms of reputation, because he's been seen as the hardest coach that's ever lived. And I think that you have to understand that, then you have to hear me talking to others who have had him, because you won't believe me how hard he was in terms of running, in terms of exercises. But the funny thing is, at this point, I'm getting close to 32. I am on not the end of my career, but I'm not in the national team anymore. Young strikers have taken place in the national team. So for me, it was also now to enjoy my time. And Felix Magath, somehow I loved the way he got forward on things, although it was so hard. His first session, I remember in Portugal, we was running and running. And people thought, we have to stop soon. 1 hour, 25 minutes later, he in the front, the hardest one, came into the bus, one player missing. And we had and nobody dared to say to Magath, because Magath had the reputation of the hardest man alive. So I went forward and said, Trainer, we have lost a player. And he looked at me. We have what? We have lost the player. Nobody dares to tell you. So we had to turn around on the beaches of Portugal looking for this player. And he had a fallout. He fell or whatever. Yeah. So he comes over, like coming out from Vietnam or the Korea War, and he can't hardly walk, with his lips all over the place. And that was the moment that I saw that made me have probably a good time at the Magath, is that I saw he had humor. And I think at that moment we found each other, because he saw what I saw. And I have to tell you that the first meeting he had a meeting with all players around him. And Felix Magath got a thing that he is drinking his tea in every meeting, before a game, every meeting, very, very slowly. Very, very slowly, doing his tea like his always tea. And then he has a cake, and mind you, 25 players then watching him doing this. So he's sitting there, eating very slowly, and then oddly, he just get out questions for people about the opposition or whatever. So we always had to be aware, because like me, I had no clue by other teams who played in the team. So I had a note from the kicker, so I could see the last game. So then I could see down, they played a 4-2-3-1 or whatever. And a lot of things around there. But then in the first meeting, he looked at Åge Fjørtoft. Åge Fjørtoft has been at the club for like 1,000 years, and played 1,000 games. And he said to him, Åge, that was the first word as a manager in a meeting. And he said to him, Åge, what are you doing here? And Åge, there's two ways you can answer a question like this. What are you doing here? Fuck off. What are you doing here? What are you really doing? What's your job here? Of course, Åge Fjørtoft, as any footballer, will think that he means, what are you doing here? Sod off. And Åge, with all his, said, I'm a defender. And he takes up his tea and say, okay, you're a defender. Good to know. And this is one of the best well-known players at the team. Then he looked at the guy called Thomas Sampach, who played on the right side, not a very good player, but still he played there, liked to use his mouth all the time. So he looked at him and said, Sampa, what are you doing here? And he goes in the same trap. And he said, well, coach, I am running forward and I'm running backwards. And then Magath, because I always wanted to smile, and then I couldn't hold, so I was sitting like this. And then Magath took up his cake and did like this, and he said, so you are running forward and you're running backwards. That is good to know. And for me, that is great humor, you know? So, and then of course, he had noticed that I wasn't 100% concentrated. And then he looked at me and said, so Fjørtoft, what are you doing here? And of course, now I have had the time to prepare what I was going to say. And I said, I looked him straight in the eyes and I said, Trainer, I'm supposed to score the goals here. I haven't scored enough. The other one was fired, and now you're here. And then that was the end of the session, and he asked me never again in the times we worked with him. But I found Magath, and he always say when I see me, and his wife is always saying when he sees me, because he was so mental in the way he did it compared with other coaches that I thought it was funny. Yeah. So he will always do kind of things that you found funny. And I must say, no, at the end, he played with another striker, got a young striker in, and he told me in the summer, you won't be playing a lot. And I said, fair enough, I'm old, but I would stay because I'm 33. I won't look for another club. I would stay and work for my job, or I'll fight for my job, even the minutes I get. So I got a lot of minutes. But then I had to play it from the start. And coincidentally, against Kaiserslautern at home, I scored a fantastic goal, a chip in a goal, 3-1. I think we won. And after the game, you should never quote yourself, but after the game, I said, and in German, they love a quote. I said, it was between me and a bus driver, but the bus driver had forgotten his shoes, so I got a chance to play. And then I played for the rest of the half season. And Magath in meetings and all that kind of things said that you all have to look at Jan's attitude, because Jan's attitude is brilliant.
Felix Magath, the master of discipline himself.
We had a fight. I just want to I know this is getting longer than we thought, but there's going to be a testament that you can to play to your my grandchildren, your kids once. But it was an end. We had a fight about something, and because he had a team meeting that was terrible, and he had a go at everybody, but normally didn't have a go at me. And then we lost, I think 3-0 at home to Wolfsburg, and he was going on, and I was just sitting there. Yeah, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything, because you know, a coach when he is ranting, leave him alone. Don't say anything. Just say yes, coach, no, coach, agree, coach. And then he's starting by saying that in the training session in the morning on a match day, I have been singing in the shower. And I was, and that was one of the reasons why we lost 3-0. And I was like, no, stop it. And blah, 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 blah. And he talked about different things. And then he had a go at me again for the singing. And I, stay away, Jan, stay away. Okay. And then he had another go. And then I lost it. So I lost it in the meeting with Felix Magath, one of the first, I guess, who have ever done that. We were shouting to each other. I was up on his board showing why he went, because he always said, why? But why? But why? And I was like, I tell you why. And I went up, this is why we don't pressure on there, blah, blah, blah. And I remember the sport director, a guy called, the sport director at that time, I can't remember now, he said, turn around. But why, Jan? And I turned around to him. Why is in German, warum? So I looked at him and said, what the fuck is this club? It says FC Warum. And then Magath sent us home. And I came home. You didn't notice, but my wife, I said to Marianne the next day, I said, today I'll probably be fired. Because he could, that kind of personality, you can't have a go at without consequences. And so I went in, was sitting in the dressing room, all the players, of course, they were happy that I have done it. So they were, well done, Jan, it's brilliant what you did yesterday. I said, that's easy for you to say. You're not supposed to be fired today. And this was in Waldstadion. And then Manfred Kals, one of the greatest players of German football, in his right position, he had these banana crosses for Horst Rubisch, Hamburger Sportsman, came in and said, Jan, the coach wants to see you. And I went into this, I swear to God, I came into the coach dressing room. There was the darkest room I've ever seen in my life. There was the president, the sport director, coaches, secretary. They were all sitting like this in front of me. And Magath was sitting like this. And he said, and I sat down. And when Magath, when they're supposed to start talking, I said, can I say something first? And he said, a bit surprised, he said, yes, you can. Well, I think you have two alternatives. Either you have to fire me because my behavior wasn't okay, or you can think that I'm the only one who have the balls to say how bad it was in this game. And then Magath looked at me and he said, go out. And I went, no, they didn't say one word. So I went into the dressing room, players' dressing room again, and the player said, so what happened? And I said, I had no idea. They didn't talk to me. What do you mean they didn't talk to me? I talked. And I was like, so I was waiting. And then Felix Magath came into the dressing room and he stood in front of all the players and said, from now on, Jan is the vice captain of this club. So, so that's why I love Magath. I love to tell stories about him. And it's always good to see him because he's one of those proven record. You can have won the Bundesliga with Wolfsburg, double with Bayern Munich. But all the Fulham players, they will confirm all my stories because he is a character.
No, fantastic, Dan. I really appreciate you sharing that. And obviously, I've heard these stories before, but I think some of your better stories actually are from Germany as well. And Felix Magath is notorious across borders, across Germany, England, what have you, as being the big disciplinarian. And I guess factoring in this part of your career, there are less fucks to give in a way, and that probably helps with the overall approach. You
can't tell the story without swearing, Marcus, in these stories, because it's so important thing of the life. And I love that. That was my love for German football. That was a love for everything. And I love to work for them. I love to work in Germany. I know working for Eintracht Frankfurt. But when I left the club and I went home to Norway, I was in the dressing room. They gave me a present, and I told them, "Listen, boys, I just have to get you into a secret. When I was having a go, when I was making fun, humor thing, that I made a joke with you, that was when I was serious. When I was serious with you, that was my jokes. Sorry you never understood that, but now I just tell you. See you, auf Wiedersehen." Okay,
Dad. We're just going to conclude with a big quick fire, a short quick fire is what I meant. A Bundesliga special quick fire. I list the questions or the categories, and you give me a quick answer. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Best manager from your time in the Bundesliga?
Well, some candidates, some mad candidates that I won't get into, but I have to go Jörg Berger. We saved the Bundesliga place, and he was a friend till he went away. He passed away far, far too early.
Craziest manager?
Well, everybody will think that I will answer Felix Magath, and I will, but I will say it with a humbleness. I'm making up my words here. But I like Felix Magath, and I always love to meet him now if we meet some arenas in Germany.
Best player you played with in Germany?
Well, I think I have to say Bernd Schneider. Bernd Schneider played with the first season, then he went to Leverkusen, had a great career there. Was man of the match in the 2002 World Cup, where they lost with those two Brazilian Ronaldo goals. But Bernd Schneider got to be my favorite, best player I played with.
And favorite goal?
Favorite goal got to be the 5-1 against Kaiserslautern. But I would say in a good second, the first goal you score is always important when you get to a new country. And that was against Schalke, but 5-1 against Kaiserslautern.
Best opposition player?
Whoa, that I played some. I played against a fantastic Dortmund team 1 year after they won the Champions League. I played against Bayern team with all those kind of great players in there. But I have to say, my then later colleague at Sky, Lothar Matthäus, one of the best players I've ever played.
Two last ones. Favorite German player growing up?
I think the one we only knew about two players when I grew up, because we didn't have a lot of live games. That was Johan Cruyff from Holland and Franz Beckenbauer from Germany. He was an elegant libero. He was a mastermind. And fortunately enough, I'm very proud to say, later a colleague at Sky, and I spent some time with him that precious memory.
And lastly, favorite current German player now following it?
Well, that is a tough one, but if you don't mind, I would put two players in. And I argue because they are similar in age, similar kind of players, and still two players I love to see. And that is Musiala and Wirtz. I love those two players, and they will be some of the greatest that has come out from German football in years to come.
Certainly will. And with that, Dad, we conclude our little Eintracht special. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed us talking about and reminiscing about what is arguably a very memorable and important 2.5 years of your life, and having lived there myself as well. A place that means a lot to yourself and us as a family. So I really appreciate that, Dad, and I mean that.
Thank you, and thank you likewise. A good idea to do that. And you saw I got emotional. That just shows my relationship to German football and Eintracht Frankfurt. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.